Welcome to another Down the Rabbit Hole video. We're here in the tavern and we're talking Dungeons and Dragons. Why? Because I need to have a little celebratory drink. It occurred to me the other day. It was the summer of 1981 when I started playing Dungeons and Dragons. I remember it clearly. And here we are in the summer of 2021, which makes it 40 years ago that I first started playing D&D. Whoa, that's incredible. So let's have a little celebratory drink, shall we? I've bought a drink that I think would actually work well with it. This is Night Watch from Lighthouse Brewing Company. It's got kind of a neat, I don't know, Poseidon kind of guy on there. It looks kind of neat, and it's the best drink that I could find. I was hoping to get some Fuggles and Warlock, because that's very Dungeons and Dragons in theme, but there wasn't anything really appropriate. This is a coffee lager, which I don't know if that's going to taste very good, but hey, we had late nights playing Dungeons and Dragons, so it kind of makes sense. So, yeah, I wanted to also talk about how when we got our D&D game started, I had seen the box set for a while in some of the local hobby stores, that kind of thing, and I remember thinking to myself, wow, that's that Dungeons and Dragons game I hear about so much. Oh, it's got a nice little frothy head on it there. We'll let that sit for a bit and then we'll enjoy it. And I had heard of Dungeons and Dragons, a lot of people had, but I didn't know anything about it, and a friend of mine was like, oh yeah, let's start up a campaign. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. So we did. I still remember my first character. But what was interesting is, so you buy the box set and it's kind of, you know, we're in our teenage years, so we don't really have piles of cash. So we're buying a cheap, off-the-shelf, here's a starter pack game, and it came with these really, really lousy-looking dice, like very cheaply made, but they got the job done, right? I was able to roll up my very first character with those awful dice. Now, as the years went by, we started to realize, you know, these dice need like some durability. We got to get, a friend of ours had gone down to Vegas, so he brought back these like proper casino dice and was like, oh yeah, we should maybe get some better dice. And we all did. We got gem dice and metallic dice, I think. Did somebody have one of those? And so the original dice that we had kind of got shoved to the back. And anytime there was too many of us around the table and I was like, all right, we got to pull out whatever dice is free, somebody would look at them and was like, well, there's the old crummy, like, original dice, which, as the years had passed, had kind of worn down and that kind of stuff, and were not very good. And somehow they got the name Mogey dice. Cheers to D&D. It's coffee and liquor flavor. I watch. Let's pour a bit more. Yes, so the terrible old crummy dice were, I don't even know where we got that. I think what it was, you remember there was like all that Valley Girl stuff in the 80s, and we were talking about like, oh, gag me with a spoon, that kind of stuff. Somehow the phrase from like Grody, that's what we called those dice. These are the Grody dice. They're all like really the low-end budget basement kind of, these are the crummy dice nobody wants to use. These are the Grody dice. And then as time went by, that kind of got morphed into, no, well, it's the dice for old fogies. It's the original dice we first had. So it went from Grody dice to fogey dice. And then it kind of just morphed again. You know how like phrases are always changing? Kevin Smith will talk about how he, his buddy Jason Mewes in their movies, they used to have this snoochy, boochy kind of phrase that they would use, and it was like, what the heck does that mean? It was a progression of a term that they used a lot. So for us, those dice went from being the Grody dice to being the fogey dice, and then that morphed into the mogey dice. I don't know why, but that was what they were. Cheers. Yeah, that is a weird flavor. That would have helped, though, in those late-night sessions. So, I moved away to the UK in 1986, and said goodbye to my friends, and I was like, Josh, I wonder if I'll ever play D&D again. Who knows? Who knows what the future holds? And my DM of that era said to me, as a going-away present, I bequeath to you the mogey dice. Still in the original Royal Bank bag. I don't know why you had them in those. Yeah, these are the mogey dice. So I'm going to pour them out, like this drink, and show them to you. I'll do a few close-ups. So you will get an idea here. Oops, little badge thing as well. Yeah. Ooh. Here are the mogey dice. And man, oh man, have they seen better days. You know what? They weren't even all that great when they first started. I mean, you know, the typical, here's the 6-sided die, and it's very rough and starting to go kind of funny colors on the edges. It's almost like it is decaying. Again, it's 40 years old, so I can see that. The 4-sider is not too bad. I think what we also had a problem with is we couldn't see half of the time compared to some of the other dice that the guys had around the table. These were really hard. We had to squint a lot and in low light conditions for a typical D&D setting. These were not very good, so we actually took a crayon to, or you know, kind of pushed in to highlight some of the numbers just to make them legible. That did okay. In the 10-sider here, it's starting to wear out as well, so you really can't even see the numbers. Well, you kind of can. However, the 20-sided is actually kind of funny. I remember once using the mogey dice because we're in a scenario. I was like, oh, quick, grab me one of the dice. Oh, I'll use the mogey one. All right. And I rolled it, and it just kept rolling because these edges are so rounded, and it's been a long time since it's been used. Let's see if it still rolls very slowly now. Let's give it a cursory little go. There are some grooves in this table, so we'll see if it maybe sticks into there. But if I roll it here, well, you know what? That's not bad. Lucky 13. Yeah, that's actually, that is not as bad as I remember. I remember it just going forever on the table. How about another one? Number 3. What are these, weighted? Only 3 and 13? Let's try it again. 9. All right, that's not so bad. Yeah, okay. He's not as bad as his reputation precedes him with. But yeah, these dice, I mean, they were what we had, and we very quickly upgraded to something of a little more substantial kind of gaming capability, because these things are going to be put through their paces, and we definitely did. I guess just to round off the conversation, and I'll tell you about my very first character that I rolled with this die right here. So, we're not used to what D&D is. We haven't quite figured out where the goalposts are, that kind of thing. Is it like chess, or is it like Monopoly? Do we roll dice and move up the board? No. So, I remember, like, okay, well, I want my character to be a fighter, warrior type. A, you know, you got the sort of power fantasy of any teenage kid. And B, I didn't understand all the complexity of the magic and the spellcasting and what the thief could do kind of confused me. I just thought, no, give me a sword and armor and I'll be happy. And in fact, I looked at the stats and I was just like, well, I want a 2-handed sword. I mean, that just does the more damage. That's better. Everybody's like, yeah, but you can't use a shield and it's a pain in the butt to have to work with. Give me a 2-handed sword. I love the 2-handed sword. So, the very first character I ever rolled up, this die, was going to be a warrior. So, I can't remember if we followed the original rules where it's like you roll your strength and your intelligence and your wisdom and your dexterity. Like, did we do it in order? Or, not long after that, we came up with a different system of like, okay, roll 6 times, you know, the stats. Roll it for 6 different abilities, and then if you want to be a fighter type, put it in strength and constitution. If you want to be a thief, put it in dexterity. So, like, you had your 6 numbers, and you got to choose where they would go. I think that was a later development for us. Can't remember. But I remember rolling up my warrior with this dice. And I want to say I had a 17 strength. Like, I think it was a real fluke that I actually got very good strength. Maybe 16. I think that's more likely. What's the name of your warrior going to be, Kev? Well, I don't really know. I want something that sounds kind of medieval-ish, but also fantasy, and I haven't really followed, like, Lord of the Rings that much or anything, so I don't have a contextual, what are some good warrior names that don't sound ridiculous? So I went with one that was ridiculous. My cousin was living with us at the time, and he used to laugh when we would watch the old Hanna-Barbera cartoon, Captain Caveman. Because my name is kind of similar, And he would always refer to me as, hey, Captain Caveman, would you help me over here? Or, Captain Caveman, let's go and do this. And then it got like reduced down to just Caves or Caveman. So here I am with my warrior who's going to get a two-handed sword if it kills me. No pun intended. He's going to have a name. And what is it? I went with Cavemaninoff. It's just ridiculous. Yeah. My warrior was essentially a tweaked version of a silly nickname that I had. Cavemaninoff. I think he lasted a little while. We did the Keep on the Borderlands like most initial players do. And it was this dice, or this die, that rolled his stats. The Mogey dice. I am so happy my DM gave these to me. I mean, they've been sitting on a shelf forever. I was just like, what do I do with the Mogey dice? I don't even play D&D anymore. And if I did, I wouldn't be with these pieces of junk that roll forever. But I can't really bring myself to get rid of them. And my DM gave them to me as a kind of an heirloom of our gaming era. I can't just throw them away. So I'm very glad I've kept them over the years, because now that I've got a YouTube channel and I talk D&D and some booze, I like to talk about the memories and the old stuff that was associated with the gaming that we did. So I just thought, yes, for the 40th anniversary of Dungeons and Dragons, I need to bring out the dice that started it all. The Mogey dice. As awful as they are, as rotten as they look, as badly as they roll, they've got a history. They've got a story to them. So thought I would share that with you. Alright, well, cheers to the Mogey dice and to 40 years ago starting to play Dungeons and Dragons. Wow. I still remember the day. Like it was maybe not yesterday, but not 40 years ago. That's getting on close to half a century. Wow. Alright, well anyway. Cheers. Thank you, Dungeons & Dragons, for all those great memories. And until next time, we'll see you down the rabbit hole.